Hey guys, I'm JanetOnOccasion, and today we are going to be looking at a couple of blog posts from the Warhammer Community. Both of them are a little stale. One's from last week, one's from earlier this week. But I thought I'd go over them anyway, just because there's more stuff to learn from them. And yeah, why not? Why not, right? So, Grand Cathay comes to life in epic collaboration for Total War Warhammer 3. This, of course, was the blog post that came out alongside the trailer, but I think it's a cool one to look at. So, far to the east, past the Dwarven Realms in the World's Edge Mountains, and beyond even the Ogre Kingdoms, lies the mysterious Grand Cathay. It's the largest nation in the Warhammer world, first mentioned all the way back in the second edition of Warhammer Fantasy Battles, but the armies of Grand Cathay have never appeared on stage before, as it were. Until now. They're storming onto the battlefield as one of the 6 main factions in the upcoming Total War Warhammer 3. Storming, that is, in the most literal sense. Get it? Because the Storm Dragon. I know. So if you haven't seen the trailer already, go and watch it. I'm not going to play through the whole thing here. But it is rather terrific. I do rather love it. There's a lot of interesting stuff to dissect from there too. But you know me, I'm less focused on going, look, that's a unit there, and I want to learn about them. Unless there's information to talk about them, then then it's irrelevant to me. So seeing the trailer, lovely. Go watch it. Lots of cool units there, both Tzeentch and Cathay. But we don't know what all the Cathay stuff is yet. So you know, well. We will know what some of them are in a second, which is the second blog post we're getting to, so you'll see. So you have probably follow-up questions. I'm sure you guys do. Firstly, yes, that was an immortal dragon in human form, and then in cool dragon form too. Meet Miao, one of Cathay's 2 playable legendary lords. If you are watching this, then you have seen, hopefully, if you're watching these out of order, then how dare you. I have already done a video about Miao. We have been introduced to her, and we have a lot more details about her now, so be sure to go check that out. So she looks fantastic there, in this little pagoda with the cherry blossom and everything. So I like that they are doing sort of regional terrain, essentially. You know, not only got the architecture, but also the flora and fauna are appropriate for, fantasy China, essentially. So lovely concept art here for, of course, Warhammer the Old World, because remember, this is a project that isn't just about Total War Warhammer, but it's also about Warhammer the Old World, which will be the fantasy world come back to life. And it's especially handy that these dragons are basically immortal, because it means that the Old World, which is, several hundred years before the events of Total War Warhammer 3, all the Cathay stuff will still be relevant because they're still alive hundreds of years before, so it all works out beautifully. So yeah, it's almost like they planned it like that. Anyway, Miao appears at the head. Miao is great. Anyway, Miao appears at the head of the Grand Cathayan host that's been designed by the Warhammer Studio from the ground up in an unprecedented collaboration with long-term partners Creative Assembly, the studio behind Total War Warhammer 1 and 2. For all intents and purposes, Grand Cathay is a brand new faction, but it's every bit as Warhammer as Emperor Karl Franz. Yeah, that's the vibe I'm getting. So, yeah, I'm believing them on that. And look at this, the concept art's beautiful. These like floating hunks of rock. It's a very Warhammer thing. It looks kind of bizarre, of course, but the amount of like random floating stuff, in like Lizardman temple cities and things, any like ancient city that's had time to like sculpt the world to its own for its own amusement, or to its own design. That's something that's totally got precedent, but it just looks so majestic and fantastical. It's really cool seeing these sort of cloud temples and things. It's very interesting. So the Storm Dragon Miao is charged with defending the northern border from the relentless incursions of chaos. She commands the armies of the Great Bastion, a towering magical wall constructed by her father, the Celestial Dragon Emperor. That stands as a powerful vanguard against the ever-present threats to Cathay. If you think magical walls sound rad, Daddy-o, perhaps you spotted that big chap with the glowing face and halberd. That's a Terracotta Sentinel, a statue that can come to life to defend a city. You might also be able to make out an alchemist and an astromancer, Cathay's 2 main magical swords. So this is really cool. I think this is a very cool reference to, of course, the Terracotta Warriors. Archaeological site. I think this is a really fun thing. I think it's really cool to see this sort of something of this scale. It also adds a lot to the history of Cathay, just given the fact that these are like ancient statues that were, of course, built to defend against chaos. I think it's really cool. We'll get more details on them in a second, but I think they're a really cool addition, and they fit in just beautifully, and just scarily oppressive. I mean, look at this. Look at this image. That is oppressive. Like, that feels so authoritarian, you know? They're like, yeah, they're here to defend you, but also to stop you from doing your own thing, really. Like, you don't have statues like this lording over people unless you want people to be reminded of the protection. It feels very much like a racket, you know? Which is, I think, very intense and very cool. And very Warhammer, you know? Cathay is a sprawling empire as diverse and eclectic as the empire of the Old World, and amongst its ranks can be found infantry, cavalry, and war machines, as well as far stranger units. We'll let the eagle-eyed among you try to work out what those other units might be. But now you come to mention it, those do look like Chaos Warriors riding Discs of Tzeentch, don't they? That's, yeah, for the trailer, we do have the Chaos Warriors and Discs of Tzeentch. Very cool. Love the special effects, all the, like, you know, trails of magic and... oh, awesome. Just magical rocket packs. Great, you know, love it. So, it's like Green Goblin, but magic. So, we'd say more, but Qian Chi, as the Changer of Ways is known in Cathay, won't let us. Changer of Ways being Tzeentch, of course. So yeah, really cool. Really cool to see the units. They've got some crossbowmen, which are, you know, beautifully elegant. On dragons, you know, emblazoned on them. Gotta remember who your master is. Every single one. Every single weapon. Because these are the weapons that defend the Empire, and best symbol of the Empire's defense is, of course, the dragon. So, you know, very cool. But also, technically, a symbol of oppression if these guys are going to be using their weapons on their own people. I really just assume that it's oppressive because it's an imperial power in Warhammer, you know? It'd be weird if it wasn't. That and the references to the sort of the Han dynasty and things, it just reeks of that, you know, of sort of Imperial China. So I just assume that that's the case. So with Grand Cathay looming in the Warhammer background for so long, they've been a much requested addition over the years, but beyond a few adventurous ogres and odd hobgoblin Khan, we've never seen much of the Cathayans. When it came time to design them for the next instalment in the blockbuster Total War Warhammer series, the Warhammer Studio team leapt at the chance to bring Cathay into the fold. Andy Hoare, or Hore, something. I don't want to just call him Andy Hoare and someone tell me it. Don't call him that, Janet. I have no idea. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry. The Emperor of all things Old World has more. So this we are going to have a look at.
Cathay's been in Warhammer as long as there's been Warhammer. The very first edition of the game, going back to the 1984, something like that, 83, 84, mentions Cathay in a very loose form. In fact, all of the familiar nations of the Warhammer world were mentioned in only very passing sort of way in those early editions. And so when it came to actually working on Cathay with Creative Assembly, we went back to those early mentions. We picked out those little Easter eggs that had been left for us by previous generations of writers, and we expanded and extrapolated them and came up with a complete faction, a complete nation.
I mean, we got together as a team. So the first thing is we sit in a room, we discuss what is Cathay. This is a new design, a new army. Where do we start? We start from the ground up. Okay, let's get a bit of history. So our rules writers will join in. We'll come up with history, we'll play with ideas. We'll also have a discussion with Creative Assembly because they have their own ideas and opinions, and we're sort of like mediating it and helping control what is right and what fits our world. The thing about Warhammer Old World is it's sort of on a basis on historical real armies. So our first port of call would look at ancient Chinese armies, look how they're built up, look at the designs, look at the way they're armoured, the way their units fought. And that's a good starting point as a foundation for designing an army. And from there, we'd start to put the fantastical into it.
Who are the characters that you see on the tabletop? Who are the soldiers? How and why do they fight? But also the top level, the top down. What's the big history of Cathay? Who are the Dragon Emperors? Why are they dragons?
We needed the look of the army to be a hierarchy of dragons that controlled this army. We knew that the leaders and the Emperor and the Empress were both dragon forms. They were first dragons. This is not a dragon that has a rider on the back. They would never imagine that. They are the leaders, but they also can take human form to interact with their own people. And so we wanted the hierarchy to be a dragon-ruled cities. From there, we sort of worked and said, okay, you would have a similar to an empire where you'd have militia and peasant factors. You want that in there as well to give you a feel of the human level.
It feels like this army is going to have a bit of everything. It feels like it's going to have some great magic. It's going to have serried ranks of disciplined warriors. It's going to have war machines. It's going to have magicians. It's going to have flying things and cavalry. The secret to this army is in the way all of these disparate unit types work together. But the overall theme is disciplined ranks of very skilled soldiers, high magic, all of that sort of thing is there. But the way they balance off against each other is key. Using them together in a balanced way is key.
So that's cool stuff. Just, a little insight into their design process, which I really enjoy seeing. I really like that. It's nice to see who's working on it. I don't know why, but just immediately I'm like, oh yeah, these guys know what they're talking about. These guys care. And that makes me feel good that, it's in safe hands. So anyway, the iteration of Grand Cathay is a Warhammer Studio creation through and through. Everything from preliminary concept sketches and special character design to how the army performs on the battlefield was established by the same teams working on the wider Warhammer settings. In fact, the Warhammer Studio went so far as to establish each and every unit for use on the tabletop, including stats and special abilities. These numbers were then expertly translated and transposed by the technomancers at Creative Assembly, who deftly wove them into a rich campaign in this never-before-seen part of the Warhammer world. So I find that really fun, the fact that they worked through, because obviously every Total War Warhammer faction started out as tabletop rules for stuff, and it was transposing those rules into something that makes sense. So the idea that they could still have that translation from sort of, back and forth, that sort of not ratio, that kind of that direct line between sort of stat and function, that I think is really good. It really makes sure that the intent of the unit makes sense in both contexts, because of course that's not something they've had to do. They've only had to translate one way up until now. But you can't have Creative Assembly taking the lead on the gameplay of this stuff and then realising that all these brilliant units suddenly don't make a lot of sense. Their counterparts play completely differently. So I like that they've done that just for the sake of continuity. Whether those are, the rules they're going to be using on tabletop for any of this stuff is anybody's guess. But just for the sake of making sure the intent of, the intention of the unit is consistent, I think is brilliant. I think it's really fun to see that they went to that sort of extra mile to help translate something and make it sort of consistent and cohesive with the rest of the Warhammer world. I think it shows a great deal of care, which I really love to see. So again, gorgeous concept art, absolutely stunning, absolutely gorgeous. That so cool. So anyway, Cathayan society follows the harmonious teachings of the Celestial Dragon Emperor and his equally powerful consort, the Moon Empress. They also happen to be two of the oldest beings still alive, predating even the arrival of the Old Ones, which, if you've been watching all my other videos, we already know that from other articles. So they're not gods, nor do they wish to be worshipped as such, but they are nevertheless so spectacularly powerful that they are quite detached from the day-to-day running of their empire, which falls to their children to manage. Children? That's right. Miao Ying has siblings, including a certain Iron Dragon. We'll be revealing more about the ruling dragons next week, so keep an eye on the Warhammer Community for more details. In the meantime, you can find out more about Cathay with Creative Assembly's FAQ. Can't wait to kick off a grand campaign in Grand Cathay. Total War Warhammer 3 is coming out in early 2022 and is available for pre-order right over on Steam and on the Epic Games Store, or on nexus.gg/Janet, where I will get a cut and cost the same as on Steam. And you can leave me a tip if you like. Any of that sounds pretty good, huh? Yep, they definitely mentioned that in this blog. It says so right at the bottom. Don't look too closely, it's fine. So anyway, we're going to read another article now as well from the Warhammer Community. It's the official background for Total War Warhammer 3's most deadly unit. So I did say I don't want to just go and point at stuff in a trailer and work out what it is and all the rest of it. We could speculate about that all day and not really get anywhere. There's certain, obvious cultural touchstones, like, lanterns, for instance. Like, yeah, they have lantern festivals in China, like, whatever. Paper lanterns are a thing, fine. So they have lantern units, great. Doesn't really tell us anything, doesn't really inform us on much. But this blog should. So, read the official background to Total War Warhammer 3's most deadly units. Before we go any further, check out our previous article. We just did that. Yeah, we just did. So yeah, we're good like that. So watch Grand Cathay come to life in the epic cinematic trailer. Even if you've seen it before, go see it again. It is really good. It is really good. It has millions of views right now, and I'm not surprised. So all done. Good. You should be. We won't blame you if you watch it again quickly. Again, beautiful concept art. Absolutely stunning. Well, is it concept art? I mean, it's clearly in-engine, but you know, whatever the case. Wallpapers. I don't know. Marketing art, something. It's nice art. Brilliant, nailed it. So, right, now we can get on with revealing some of the awesome work that's gone into the development of this previously unseen kingdom of the world that was. Believe it or not, Grand Cathay has existed in the lore of the Warhammer world since its foundation, though with the action focused mostly on the kingdoms and empires to the west of the World's Edge Mountains, not much was ever revealed about it. The culture and military disposition of Grand Cathay has therefore remained shrouded in mystery, until now, that is. Or until last week, I guess. But anyway. This stuff looks awesome, and actually here I am going to speculate. It's more of a theory, more of a I want to put this out there in case I happen to be right, and then we can look back at this and go, oh wow, Janet was right. Because it's dragons, right? You've got the celestial dragon, which star dragon potentially. Then you've got the moon dragon, his wife, right, which is the next tier down in the sort of hierarchy of dragons in high elf dragonry. That's a word now. Then you've got sun dragons, right? But we don't seem to have any sun dragons, although the dragon does have a sun, which I guess is somehow relevant. No, but here we've got these guys all sort of emblazoned with yellow, which to me makes me think that they are representing the sun in some way. That's just my guess. I have a feeling that these are going to be, you know, some kind of elite guard that are something to do with the celestial dragon. That of course is going to be on, I forget which side Yin and Yang represents the sun, but the celestial dragon is the one on the sort of sun side of that spectrum of the yin and yang, whereas his wife would be on the other side, right? This I think would be on the same side as him, but you know, the sun rather than the stars. So that's my guess. That's my guess. As like the palace guards, I think that'll be called like, I don't know, sun wardens or some, you know, nonsense. But I have a feeling it'll be themed around that. Maybe, but maybe not. These guys perhaps jade something as well, because jade is the symbol of the Chinese emperors and presumably of the Cathayan emperors too, because we do actually have the first clue we got that Cathay was going to be in the game was in the announced trailer for Warhammer 3, where it had a jade statue of a dragon on the table. You know, when Catherine was looking at that map, had a jade statue of a dragon there. So I'm assuming jade is still a very relevant thing for Cathay. So that's my guess. But anyway, enough about that. I know, I said we wouldn't speculate. I can't help it. So, with this ancient and enigmatic empire set to star in Total War Warhammer 3, the design team in the Warhammer studio set to work developing every aspect of Grand Cathay's lore, from the architectural style of their cities and buildings to their military leaders and units. Inspired by this new background material and concept art, the talented designers at Creative Assembly then went about bringing them to life on the screen. Let's take a look at 3 of the most impressive units from the cinematic trailer and learn a bit more about them, with some of their official lore straight from the Warhammer studio. Now this I think is a great idea just for marketing. I know this is neither here nor there, but the idea of them fleshing out specifics about units on the Warhammer Community one rather than the Total War Warhammer like blog posts, I think is a really good way just to cement it in people's mind that no, this isn't just Creative Assembly making up a faction and doing their own thing. Like, this is very, you know, this is a Games Workshop thing too, and it's because obviously, but so many people need to be reminded of that, and I find it really strange. But this I think is a great way just to go, no, this is our thing, and Creative Assembly are making it computerized, you know. So I like it. I like they've done that. I mean, I don't care either way, but I think just from a marketing perspective, you know, it's clever. I think it's clever for them to do that. Stops a lot of people whinging, if I'm being perfectly honest. So, Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon. A cool concept art. I love the claw. I think that's really cool. If you guys have watched the video I did about Miao Ying, from actually Total War, you know, their community blog, but still, I think it's really cool that they've got that sort of that constant reminder that actually I am a dragon, so don't mess. I've got my claws out at all times. So, you know, I am ready and willing to use these. I am always armed. Just a little reminder. I think that's really, really intense. Really intense indeed. So yeah, beautiful, beautiful dragons. I love the fact they're wingless. They've gone with the more traditional Chinese thing. But I'm very interested to know what the rationale of that is in universe, because I think that's really interesting. I mean, we got the Quartles, which are sort of serpents without wings, but these are specifically dragons, and dragons have wings, right? So how come these ones are able to not have them? I know they can shapeshift. It could just be a stylistic choice, and I've got to say, I've never been convinced that the dragon's wings actually let them fly, because they're huge, giant, muscular monsters, right? It always seems a bit silly. But still, they do have wings, and these ones don't. I'd love to know why there's that distinction, but we may never get the answer. It could just be a stylistic choice and deal with it. So, fair enough. I'm fine with that, honestly, but I would be interested to see if they have thought that through. So, the undisputed star of the cinematic trailer is Miao Ying, a daughter of the Celestial Dragon Emperor, and one of the divine rulers and provincial commanders of Grand Cathay. It does say she was the undisputed star, but I would dispute that, because to me, it felt like one of the characters that was in the balloon. It was focusing on them quite a lot. When Tzeentch's forces first turned up, it seemed like they were actually the star of the show until their balloon got popped and they crashed into the ground, and then Miao Ying turned up. But it really did seem like they were making a point of showing the other character. You get that feeling? Just, anyway. So the Storm Dragon, as it turns out, is just one of her many titles. So Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon, ruler of the northern provinces, and the Great Bastion, master of the storm winds, supreme matriarch of Nangao. The Storm Dragon rules over northern Cathay and commands the armies of the Great Bastion. Cold and aloof, the Storm Dragon has ruled over the Great Bastion for centuries after its defence was entrusted to her by the Celestial Dragon. Largely considered the favourite of her father by the other dragons, the Storm Dragon lords her position over her siblings, and when they meet, often stands apart from them. So this has been parroted in the other blog post about Miao Ying on Total War's blog, but I didn't point out then, it does say siblings. So at first we only knew that it was her and her brother, right, the two legendary lords, but they do have other siblings, and of course it, from the interview that we just witnessed, it is quite obvious that it means other commanders in the army are going to be, other sons and daughters of the Dragon Emperor and Empress. They're just not going to be as, in as prestigious roles. But it does mean that there's a chance that it might be like the Slan, you've got to do something to unlock them as generals, and they'll be like generic Cathayan generals. But it does seem like we'll have other commanders that are children of the Dragon Emperor and Empress. So that's the vibe I get, which I think is really cool. I think that's really fun. There's the most trusted of the two, the most important of the two, and then you've got the other ones, because there's plenty. It's a very big place, and I'm assuming that each sort of commandery, if commandery is indeed how they name their provinces, mirroring sort of Three Kingdoms and Han Dynasty stuff, then yeah, I'm sure they all have a different dragon kid looking out for it, right, or lording over it, as the case may be. So I'd be interested to see that, swap out elect counts for dragon kids, Sounds terrifying. But anyway, so, despite her power, the Storm Dragon has a significant task in the defence of the North, and her armies are almost constantly at war. Added to this is the independence of the Lords of Nangao, whom she relies upon to arm the Great Bastion with her wondrous war machines. Outwardly, they work together, but the Lords often scheme amongst themselves and against her, dividing her attention from the Empire's enemies beyond the wall. Her vaulted position also means her father entrusts her with important tasks, some of which can put her at odds with her siblings, especially if she is required to deal with chaos incursions within the Empire itself, which does sort of lend some credence to the idea that maybe Cathay isn't completely unmarred by chaos. There have been, tales of specific cities falling to Tzeentch and things, but if it's specifically siblings of hers that she is at odds with, the idea of these other dragon kids not only sort of being at odds with what Miao Ying wants, but potentially falling to chaos and being a very powerful enemy within Cathay. What better way to strike at the heart of something so brilliantly defended than to rot it from the inside? And if the Dragon Emperor and Empress are having a nap at the moment and leaving the ruling to the to two of their most trusted of children, then yeah, there could be some problems, right? Could be some problems. Certainly, if those problems existed, it would probably make a good sort of era to cover in a video game. You know, not one where everything's fine. So I think it could be interesting. I think it could be an interesting angle that they might take with the story here. I think it'd be quite cool because yeah, outward and internal threats. It's very, very scary. So Terracotta Sentinels, love these guys, absolutely love them. So I did tell you we'd have more about these. So these monolithic constructs stand out in the cinematic trailer in more ways than one. They're absolutely colossal for starters, yet seem able to move with surprising swiftness and grace for towering animated statues. My first impression of them is that it makes all other constructs and giants and anything big completely obsolete, because like a weapon that size and the speed at which they can move, can you imagine just like a giant waltzing in with a club? It wouldn't stand a chance. I mean, it's basically just like a peasant with a stick fighting a trained soldier, you know? So that's the vibe I get. Also, I like the idea that these are, you know, predate the constructs of the Tomb Kings, which does seem to be the case. That does seem to be the case. So I like the idea that these could be, you know, something that was an inspiration, or you know, the Hyro Titan and things are a derivative of this, you know, of these things. I like that. These are a more ancient form of something that we kind of have seen in the game before. So I think that's a really interesting idea. If these, I mean, they do predate it as far as I'm aware. So it's pretty cool. So these monolithic constructs stand out. That they do! Here they are, Terracotta Sentinels. Terracotta Sentinels are creations born of the dragon's mastery of the elemental winds, each one a towering animated statue fashioned in the form of a great warrior. Often they are found carved into the sides of the great bastion itself, their helmets and spears making up its battlements, their bodies its buttresses. They can also, however, be found throughout the Empire, often standing watch over fields, bridges, and cities, unmoving until they are animated for war. Legend has it that these sentinels are the giant soldiers of an army built by the Dragon Emperor thousands of years ago, when chaos threatened to overwhelm the Empire. Since then, they have been left scattered across Cathay, waiting to be called to war once more. Or, to my mind, being a brilliant deterrent against crossing the Dragon Emperor, you know, because I'm pretty sure unless you live on the northern border, you know, by the Great Bastion, you're probably unlikely to be fully aware of the stakes that, you know, the world is sort of the world is under. So I reckon it'd be a good sort of good source of propaganda to have a few dotted around just to remind the people who's looking out for them, you know. So I think it's really cool. I think these things are amazing. So the idea that also what I like here, the specific language they used. Legend has it. It doesn't say they were there. It says legend has it. They could well be, you know, what the Dragon Emperor used to defend the lands of Cathay during the first invasion of Chaos, you know, when the gates first fell. That could be how he defended the lands. But maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe he just, it was a big scary dragon and that was enough, you know. Maybe there wasn't a lot of, you know, a lot of people to protect back then. We know Cathay is built of a bunch of, like, disparate tribes, perhaps like much of the humans before the old ones decided to you know, elevate them to where they are today, in that sort of you know, Space Odyssey kind of way. Perhaps they were just hiding under rocks, you know. Perhaps they're just hiding in caves, and it wasn't a big deal. But that legend has been created as a means to say, yeah, we defeated the villains of Chaos. We built these things to defend you. That's right. We are benevolent. Wink, wink. Because these things are terrifying. There's no two ways about it. So, you know, I think that's a really interesting idea, this cross-purpose, you know. We are in charge for your own protection. It's an interesting idea. And I hope that is something that is the case, because I think every empire needs to be sinister in Warhammer, or else you're doing it wrong. There's got to be, corruption or something. But the idea of something so powerful as a dragon emperor, what are people to them, right? What are people to them? So it's, I really want to know how that plays out. So, Kingming Sky Lanterns and Sky Junks. So these are really cool. I really like these. Obviously, nice reference to the various Chinese festivals like Chinese New Year and things, which I think is really nice. I think it's really cool. It's nice to have those cultural touchstones from reality to draw upon. These are obviously a bit more of an extreme thing. China never had war balloons, but hey, I like it. So the Cathayans maintain fleets of aerial vessels comprising Kingming Sky Lanterns and larger sky junks to keep watch over their borders. I believe junks are a form of naval vessel as well, I think I'm right in saying that. I think they're a form of vessel, which I think why they've called them that. If I'm remembering my history correctly. But anyway, to keep watch over their borders. In the trailer, a flight of these aircraft took to the skies to battle the airborne elements of their Xinjian foes. Very, very cool stuff. And also fits in beautifully with all the flying temples and, crazy stuff we've got going on, to have that sense of verticality when you have a ruling class of people who can fly. I think it's also interesting. I can't remember who it was in the comments, but someone in the comments mentioned how impractical it is. But I disagree. I think it's incredibly practical. If indeed there is that sort of, malevolent benevolence, that sort of oxymoronic rulership, that sort of ethos, that sort of propagandized love and care / bullying, whatever the case may be, it makes total sense to have sort of more important buildings in the sky. If the peasants finally cotton onto the fact that they're being oppressed, what are they going to do about it? They're not going to get up there and slaughter all of the eunuchs or whatever, in sort of Han Dynasty, rebellion way. There's going to be none of that. All right, there's going to be none of that. No, far out of reach. Not out of the reach of all the important people who are dragons and can fly because they're dragons, but out of reach of anyone who might disrupt the workings of governance, which I think is really cool. It also makes sure that anyone, as a part of your administration, also can't do anything to spite you, because how are they going to get down from there if you decide to, destroy all of their means of escape? I think it's really cool. I think it's super exciting, makes very defensible positions both from enemies and, maybe not even the enemies. All the Tzeentch stuff can fly, it's, yeah. So to me it feels more impressive than anything else, which I think is awesome. I think it's such a cool thing, because it's such a sinister vibe. So that's my take on it anyway. Again, all speculation. For all I know, the Emperor and Empress might be the loveliest dragon people. We don't know. So, Kingming Sky Lantern. Kingming Sky Lanterns are used by Cathayan armies to observe enemies from on high, as well as direct troops in battle, held aloft by a caged vermilion warbird. The creature's burning wings, giving the great balloon lift. The vermilion warbird sounds a lot like a phoenix to me. A lot like a phoenix. But perhaps it's a sort of, I don't know, sort of lesser phoenix, one that maybe is imbued with the flaming wings but cannot be reborn or something. Maybe there's some aspect there where actually it's a precursor, it's a close relative of the phoenix or something from that part of the world. But either way, I think it's very cool that it's not industry, it's sort of magical beings that are powering these machines, which I think is really fun. It's thrifty and depressive. So the creature's burning wings giving the great balloon lift. A sky lantern holds an armoured gondola beneath its bulk. From this gondola, one of the Lord Magistrate's best strategies uses fans and banners to signal troops, or direct the fire of the army's war machines. Should enemy flyers or missile troops get too close, a pair of crane gunners snipe from their exceptional vantage point, which is very cool. So, the crane, I believe, is a form of kung fu, I think, about having a long reach. So the idea of crane gunners is interesting. Though I could just be paraphrasing from some made-up nonsense from Kung Fu Panda. I don't know enough about this stuff, but I think it was about its reach, because a crane has obviously the long neck. It can grab fish from out of nowhere. So there's a sniper being named after that, something that's very Asian influenced. I think it's really cool. Again, really lovely little I don't know, little bit of fluff just to make the thing, the setting, the lore, the canon feel a bit more believable, a bit more grounded in reality, which again is really appreciated. It gives so much more meaning without having to actually tell us about it, which is great. In fact, I just tell you instead. Yeah, it's because they got long reach, because it's a crane. So there you go. Also, it can fly, so it makes sense it's up there too, but that might be irrelevant. There might be crane gunners. Anyway, we have seen in some of the screenshots there are Giselle-style snipers. They could be crane gunners, for all we know. Also, the Lord Magistrate, that, I'm assuming, would be one of the mortal generals of an army. It could be that the Kingming Sky Lantern is a potential mount option for a general, as well as being a standalone unit. But again, I'm spitballing. But that does make a lot of sense. If you can't turn into a dragon, then maybe just getting a good vantage point so you can support your troops and get an idea and strategize and whatever. It makes a lot of sense to me. So as a support vehicle, I really like it. I think it's an interesting angle that they could take. So the Kingming Sky Junk. So an invention of Shi Hong, Nangao's Master War Artificer. Great title, love it. The Kingming Sky Junk, also Shi Hong, naming him by name. I think we might be seeing a potential legendary lord. Just saying. A potential future one. You never know. Having one that just is, all about artillery and contraptions and things, that would be a really cool DLC. Just have, like, the contraptions guy. I think that could be really fun. Because Ikit Claw is hilarious, so, this could be, this could follow suit. So, fingers crossed for that. Fingers crossed. So the Kingming Sky Junk is a wonder of the Celestial Army, as large as a ship of the Jade Fleet. The Jade Fleet, I believe, is their naval fleet. The Jade Fleet, I believe. And again, Jade, so they do have some, Jade does hold significance, which is cool. It is suspended in the air by a series of sky lanterns. That's right, a series of them. Its armoured cradle, able to turn aside arrows and bullets, as its crew rain death down upon the armies of the Empire. These great vessels can be seen defending the borders of Grand Cathay, but are also used beyond the Great Bastion, where armadas of the Emperor's sky ships have laid waste to entire marauder tribes. Very, very cool, and super oppressive. Hooray! So anyway, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Iceberg, because of Kislev. I think it's just a turn of phrase, but you never know. They like to tease us. So you can look forward to learning more about the origins of Grand Cathay over the coming months with Warhammer Community, as well as the video game's latest lore blog, which we've already gone over, as we get close to the hotly anticipated launch of Total Warhammer 3 early next year, and of course, the Old World project is continuing apace. So keep your eyes out for updates on the further development of the Bretonia, Kislev, and the Empire, the divided Empire, and more as it progresses. So really cool stuff. I love this. I love this so much. I think it's brilliant. And also, can I just say, the relationship that Games Workshop and Creative Assembly are forming here, I mean, it's a long shot, but I would not be surprised if Games Workshop and Creative Assembly ended up working together for a game after the Total War Warhammer trilogy and did Total War Warhammer The Old World as like a one-off thing. But again, I am totally just spitballing, but to me it feels like they're creating a new IP that would also be absolutely brilliant for a Total War game. So, I know a lot of it recycled, so, who's to say? But that's why I think maybe not a trilogy, just a standalone game would be kind of cool. But again, I'm just making things up at this point. But I am excited. There's a lot of possibilities, so I'm thinking ahead. So yeah, really cool stuff. We've learned a lot, I think, and I hope it's been interesting, and I'd love to hear your theories, because, certainly my history isn't the best. I don't know as much about China as I'm sure a lot of you guys know, so those historical references and touchstones and things, you guys might have some incredible insights, so put them in the comments. You never know, I might drag them into a video at some point. There's also there's already a few comments that people have made that I'm thinking that could actually be an interesting theory that I'd like to expand on. So we'll see how it goes, because there's so much news at the moment, I barely have time to cover it all. So you know. So guys, if you're looking to pre-order Total War Warhammer 3, remember, nexus.gg/Janet. It really helps my channel out a hell of a lot, especially with the delay to the launch of Warhammer 3. It was going to come out at the end of the year, which, for anyone who knows anything about YouTube, that's when ad rates are the highest. So with that big delay, I'm going to be missing out, as well as all other YouTubers. They're going to be missing out a lot if they were planning to cover Warhammer 3 at the end of the year, and now can't because it's not going to be out yet. It's going to be a harsh winter for a lot of us. So bear that in mind. No pressure, no need to feel guilty if you don't, but I'd appreciate it. So I can't be fairer than that. So guys, if you enjoyed this, comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.